The 2003 invasion of Iraq was the first stage of the Iraq War, while American jets bound for Iraq took off from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Few miles away emerged one of the Iraq War's most vocal critics, the news organization Al Jazeera. But the Qatari government, which also invited American jets to launch from its soil, funds Al Jazeera. There are yet more inconsistencies. The fourth largest natural gas producer is about the last nation you would expect to lead the fight against fossil fuels. Yet Qatar spends a portion of its unfathomable oil and gas wealth by working with Al Jazeera to raise awareness of climate change. Last but not least, who else but Al Jazeera? Based in and supported by one of the least democratic, least progressive, and most reactionary nations on the planet, supports democracy, advances the progressive social agenda, and offers a voice to those in need. Qatar has very limited civil and political rights. It falls behind Afghanistan, Myanmar, and Iraq in the Freedom House ranking with a mere 25 out of 100 points. For penning a poem that denigrated the royal family, a man received a life term in jail in 2012. Online dissent is suppressed and citizenship has occasionally been revoked as a form of political retribution. You would anticipate Al Jazeera to resemble China's CGTN, which is pure propaganda, or Russia's state-run RT, which sows doubt and confusion. It is more comparable to NPR or the BBC. For instance, the impartial watchdog Ad Fontes Media lists all three as among the most balanced and reliable media. Some may consider their lack of sensationalism to be bland, but in addition to having some of the best, quickest, and broadest coverage of any news network on the planet, Al Jazeera is also generally considered impartial. In general, nations tend to become more democratic as their income per capita rises. The more tax dollars taxpayers pay to their government, the more they demand in return. The exceptions include Qatar and its neighbors. Instead of paying taxes, they make money from oil or, in the case of Qatar, natural gas. In doing so, the government is able to avoid the typical political dynamic. These administrations, aware that the populace is capable of a hostile takeover, effectively bribe the populace with money in place of democracy or freedom. Qatari citizens enjoy every amenity imaginable, including direct cash transfers, free tuitions at American universities, electricity, water, healthcare, pensions, and low-cost loans. They also have access to guaranteed employment, land grants, and low-interest loans. Its per capita GDP rose to $85,000 in 2013. However, in actuality, this figure is incredibly false. Of the 2.8 million people living there, just roughly 300,000 are citizens. The positions that locals don't desire are filled by 90% of expats. The GDP per person there is more or less $50,000. The nation blends in well with its oil-rich Middle Eastern neighbors despite being richer per capita. With a mixture of horror and fear, it observed Iraq's invasion of tiny Kuwait in 1990. Iraq might become the new Kuwait according to Saudi Arabia. Qatar has always been under the shadow of its neighbor due to its 14 times lesser population and 186 times smaller territory. That is, until a coup in 1995 permanently altered the country's path. Its leader, the new emir, ordered the construction of what would actually grow to be the greatest natural gas field in the entire globe. Qatar quickly attained unimaginable wealth. Its foreign policy has since been characterized as trying to be everything to everyone. Qatar would take the middle ground in any debate, organization, conflict, or war, even if it meant sacrificing any sense of logical consistency. Its intention was to be the Middle East's red flag. Since 2013, Qatar has paid its own expenses to accommodate roughly 100 Taliban officials. A residence in Doha was also given to the wife of Saddam Hussein, a contentious exiled Indian artist and a former Chechen president. By pure coincidence, the BBC had also, at around that time, started a 24-hour news channel in Saudi Arabia. But the nation cut off funding when it showed a film that was critical of the royal family. This resulted in hundreds of Arabic-speaking BBC-trained and most significantly unemployed journalists moving in next door for Qatar. Seeing this as an opportunity, it seized it by hiring 150 of the most talented individuals to launch Al Jazeera in 1996. At the time, there was only two types of news available to the Arab world. Either local, overtly patriotic propaganda created in the manner of North Korea, or English language reportage given from an American or European perspective. Al Jazeera, on the other hand, was a welcome breath of reality. It was refreshing to hear opposing viewpoints on topics that Middle Eastern audiences truly cared about. It had only been in operation for 5 years when, in 2001, it surpassed all other Arab TV news outlets in terms of viewership. Making money was the only aspect of it that wasn't working well. The network received a $137 million loan at first, with a 5-year repayment period. However, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain immediately began to boycott its advertising as a result of its unfiltered reporting, shattering any chance of success. Strangely enough, though, being in a nation with little press freedom, losing money, and having no obvious concrete value to its financial, all turned out to be the ideal circumstances for a good news station to flourish. First off, since Al Jazeera eventually established separate English and Arabic divisions, the former has been granted a virtually limitless amount of freedom. While the Arabic edition has received harsh criticism for its slanted coverage of the region and whitewash reporting of Qatar, the English edition has almost total editorial independence. Al Jazeera enraged the United States by displaying graphic deconstruction and airing videos of bin Laden while American networks screened heavily edited. Video game-like footage of the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, the royal family and the entire nation have both suffered greatly as a result of Al Jazeera's reportage. The governments of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt put a 43-month blockade on it beginning in 2017 and demanded that it shut down Al Jazeera. During this time, the nation was unable to cross its sole land borders, experiences supply chain delays that required it to fly cows to California for milk, and was denied access to most of the Middle Eastern airspace. The network's reliance on government funding shields it from market forces, which enables it to concentrate on underreported issues and steer clear of sensationalism. Al Jazeera publishes articles about humanitarian crises in small nations and follows elections in obscure parts of the world rather than trying to boost its popularity with celebrity rumors. Qatar's enormous riches have allowed Al Jazeera to acquire the best staff, equipment, and an astounding number of on-the-ground stations at a time when viewership is declining and the majority of news networks are reducing their physical footprints. It has twice as many bureaus than CNN, which are dispersed throughout 50 nations. Third, Al Jazeera enjoys unmatched access due to Qatar's faint friendship with everyone. However, it has continually run into difficulty because of its eagerness to present all sides of an argument. Israeli rockets hit its office in Gaza, which was damaged, and some of its correspondents have been detained internationally. Today, with the notable exception of Qatar, Al Jazeera is a competitor for the most dependable, best news network worldwide. Al Jazeera could plausibly claim to have no dog in the race and no motivation to report with bias 20 years ago when the country was relatively unknown on the international stage. However, as Al Jazeera has assisted Qatar in stepping out from under the shadow of its neighbors and playing a bigger part in world politics, the network's silence on regional matters has gradually become under suspicion. From Osama bin Laden to Colin Powell, the network will broadcast them all, yet it is still subject to self censorship at home. You could speculate that the government would eventually give in to the impulse to interfere with Al Jazeera's reporting on other topics. So, guys, this was for today. Give us your thoughts on this in the comment section. And if you appreciate our content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with your family and friends. We will meet soon in a new video. Thank you very much for your time.